Hi everyone, my name is Rija and I'm here to talk to you a little bit about how my design process can help solve your business challenge. The first thing I'm going to do is share my screen, and then I'm going to go back and forth between two documents to help explain my process. Share screen, everything, share. Okay, so the first thing I want to talk about is my design process. So I have a four-step design process. It's discover, distill, ideate, and validate. In discover, I want to think about uh, what the business needs. So I need to think about what do we already know? Who's our users? What's the business goals? What's the competition doing? And what's our development roadmap? Okay, so this all happens in Discover. In Discover, I will also look at if you have any quantitative data, like analytics, or even qualitative research that you've done. From there, we move into Distill. And in Distill, the research will be a little bit different. I want rich data. So I want qualitative research. I want to know things that are going to help me focus on human-centered design and user-centered design. So I want to ask specific questions to find out what the users want, what they like, what their current issues are, what their hopes and dreams are about it, kind of thing. And in the Distill, this is when patterns and personas will develop. So discover and distill help me solve the right problem to get to the nitty gritty. From there, we move on to ideate. So in ideate, we probably had ideas about what we wanted for design from discover, but we want to move past that. So I'm going to do some design exercises like crazy eights and blue sky thinkings, just to get us thinking outside the box. Also with ideate, sometimes, often, the design work and the ideas don't come at the desk. They'll come in activities like going for a walk, working out, sleeping, laundry, kind of thing. If I've done the distill right and discover right, these ideas will be percolating and they'll come up at any time. Now in ideate, we want to keep in mind something else. So I did this presentation when I was working on the ARIS project, and it had to do with industry standards. So I didn't have time for research for this. It was basically like, here's a site, we don't have time, just do something. So I looked at the site page by page, and what I found was that on the home page, essentially what it was just links to different search functions. And essentially it was 50 different search parameters. And so you'd click this, you'd go to a search parameter, and it would return a content heavy table that was so out of date and almost unusable by today's standard. So the reason I'm showing this is because I didn't have time to do research, but my basic focus was like, what could I give them? And so if we think here, how can I enable their success? What I decided here was, okay, what they need is an industry standard table that returns information the way they can use it properly, and an industry standard search widget. So this is what I gave them, a search widget that works from the home page. It saves so much time in design, developers, QAs, that kind of thing, and it's just cleaner. Then I also did a more modern table that allowed them to have search parameters and refine their searches, and it was a more usable table. Now, after that, I was able to do some research, and this is kind of my synthesis of multiple meetings. What's really interesting is that all of this was solved before I even talked to the business, because I designed with industry standards. So coming back to how can I enable their success? Industry standards. 58% of the users asked were solved automatically because I just went with basic industry standards. Now, if I looked at the business ask and looked at anything else that I thought might be industry standards, they wanted to increase two different sort of fields to allow more input, and they wanted an upload file capability. I would say those are basic industry standards. So if we add those to our baseline, so if we make industry standards our baseline for our design, 83% of the business ask was solved just by using industry standards as our baseline. So when I ask and ideate, how can I enable their success? I want to make sure that no matter what I'm doing, I'm using industry standards. As I'm, no matter what we're asking for in the design, whether it's the business myself, we keep going back. Well, what's the industry standard? Are we following industry standards? So we can solve problems even before they come up. The next phase is validate. So this is where I might do sketches, like prototypes. And this is, again, where we're going to do some qualitative research and possibly quantitative as we get to the high profile, high fidelity prototypes. So you're going to do some designs, test it, iterate, test it again, kind of thing, and do your research. So in ideate and validate, we're solving the problem right. So we do discover and distill to solve the right problem. Ideate and validate to solve the problem right. I want to make sure that I'm giving you and your users something that they want, and validate again. So we're always checking, is my design human-centered? Do they like it? Will they use it? Do they want to recommend it, kind of thing? And it all can be summed up in Henry Ford's quote, where he said, when he built the car, he said, if I gave the users what they wanted, they would have asked for faster horses. Which is, you're kind of ridiculous, right? Because you're hiring a creative team to solve your problem. So we gotta do this process to make sure we're solving the right problem. So I mean, essentially the tools that I use essentially is the internet, Zoom, or Teams. So what you're seeing here is Miro or Mural, but at an enterprise level, they're often using Miro. So I'll use that. And then I like to stay with Figma. It's the most modern, but there's Sketch, Azure, multiple teams. I'll use Slack, Jira, usertesting.com, or Attendee if I have money for user testing and user research. And then also like online charts, because if I have to do presentations and get percentages, etc. If I'm working with an agile team, I'll make sure that I have regular meetings with the front-end developer to make sure my design is on point and his design is on point, because often developers don't think this is the way designers are. We want to make sure that that's nice and tight and clean, but also involving the BA regularly as well to make sure we understand what's needed. On top of that, then there's the regular presentations and reviews with all the developers and all the team. The deliverables that I give usually are wireframes, and that varies as well. So it's wireframes, prototypes, possibly visual design if it's needed. If there's a download portion of this site, then I may need to look at the visual design of those download hard copy, whether it's paper or it might be a download that's an HTML link. I'll still have to look at that and make sure that's up to what the business standards. Usually what there's going to be is some sort of user flows or new site maps, research synthesis, testing results. And then of course, when I'm working on an agile team, there's regular presentations to the regular 2-week presentations, sort of our show and tell, and then possibly at a higher level. So essentially that's kind of in a nutshell what I have to offer to help solve. And this also, hopefully this helps to explain my process to see whether it suits your need.